What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. We are back with another Shatterline video, and we are going to be kind of doing our overall thoughts and reviews of Shatterline PVE. So for those who don't know, I've been playing and covering Shatterline for the past since pretty much early access dropped. I'm in love with this game. I love this game. I want to see it succeed. And yeah, I have about 100 hours played onto this game. I would say I've probably put in about 30 hours into PvE, which I think is fair enough to get a kind of a general assessment of what the PvE mode is about. There's not a whole lot going on, but obviously the game is continuously being updated and adding new things. So I'm going to judge it as it stands right now. We are only 2 months into the early access. So if you're watching this at a later date, some things are probably going to change. Most likely things will change, and I'll probably do an update of my reviews once the full release drops in February of 2023. But before I get into it, if you guys haven't done so already, please like and subscribe to the content if you enjoy the content, and if you don't, leave it a dislike. But either way, let's get into it. So I want to talk about some of the things that I love from the co-op and PvE mode, and things that bother me, and things I would like to see. I'm not going to dive in exactly into the depths of what it is. I'm just going to assume a lot of people kind of get a general idea, and I'm just going to briefly go over it. So as of right now, there is the expedition mode, and then there's the story mode. Expedition is more like your roguelike mode, where you start off with just a pistol and you have to complete objectives, and as you complete objectives, you are gathering more perks, new guns, just kind of building your character up until you go up to the final boss fight. And within there, you have your contamination levels, and every time a contamination level reaches to a certain point, you get a new thing that will bother you, in a sense, a new thing that will make the game more difficult. Then you have the story modes, which is your more linear story. You get to bring your own loadout, and you don't have to worry about scavenging for anything. It's just about going through the story missions and completing the objectives and hitting your checkpoints. So I'm going to start off with expeditions and go over some of the things that I love. One of the things that I love about the expedition mode is every time you play, it's different. Everything's different, and as the game's been out for the past 2 months, it gets even more and more different. From what I can tell, it seems like they use one massive map, and then every time you join in to play expedition, you play a different section of that set map, and then within there you're going to have different mini bosses, different loot boxes and supply areas, and yeah, pretty much that. You just kind of go through, and it's your more like kind of build your character up and then try to beat the boss at the end. Versus the story mode, like I said, is pretty much the same thing over and over again. I mean, the way that enemies kind of go is a little different, but I mean, I kind of expect that out of the story mode. But I love that expeditions, every time you play, is different, and that's great to see. Unlike what you see in Destiny 2, where everybody kind of knows the flows, when boss is coming when, and it gets kind of repetitive, and I find it a little boring, and I love how every time I do it is different. Also, the contamination levels change each time, and that's awesome. That's awesome too. And I love how much it promotes teamwork. I think that's really great, because I do find it's kind of hard to solo carry a 3-man squad in contamination. In expedition. It's really tough. It is really hard. A good enough player. Maybe I'm not that great, but I mean, I like to think of myself as a pretty solid player. And once 2 men go down, and depending on the situation you're in, it can get really tough. So it's very important to really work together as a team and to really utilize your abilities. And I love that aspect of it. Like, you need everybody, and sometimes it can get a little boring for when you play in games where, kind of like Call of Duty Zombies, where one guy can carry the whole time, because the person who's dying all the time, it's not really fun for them. It's not really fun for the person that's carrying, and it really makes you selective about who you bring into your squad going into that. So I love that about it. I love the little hidden Easter eggs as well. Like the little teddy bears, the lost supply drops. I think that's really cool additions. And I like how picking the right set of operators matters as well. If you want to go through these PvE missions efficiently and not let your contamination levels get too high. I think that kind of further promotes the teamwork aspect of it. And I thought they've done a really good job. And compared to like what you see in other games that have game modes similar to this, where a lot of times it's just kind of going through the motions and people just kind of jump ahead, which you do get it a little bit, but at the end of the day, you still need everybody. And if you go too far from somebody, it will bring them back in very quickly. Now let's switch over to the story missions and the things I love about the story missions. I love how picturesque and beautiful some of the map design is for the story missions. They're amazing. I love the current difficulty for it. It's that perfect blend of challenging but not too easy. And I like some elements of it can be a little bit of a puzzle solving. But yeah, after playing both Red Lake and Hectatomb, if I'm saying that right, I found that Red Lake looked better from a map design perspective, and visually I thought it looked amazing. I thought Hectatomb, obviously a lot of it was reused assets from the multiplayer map, the Escort multiplayer map, which I don't mind. I'm perfectly okay with that. But it was way more fun than Red Lake. I thought it was way more intense. The flow of the action was perfect. Like you were constantly in once you finish one thing, you're on to the next, on to the next, on to the next. Where I felt like Red Lake, and even in the expedition mode, you can get a little bit of empty spaces where you're just running to the next one. The flow for Hectatomb was just great. I hope they continue to flow the maps and the story missions like this. If they continue to do it, that would be an A+ in my book. Now I kind of want to talk about some of the things that bothered me, and that's not very much, honestly. The only things that's really bothered me was, especially in Expedition, the distance between each expedition. Sometimes it could just be a lot of running, and if they can somehow flow the gameplay like they did for Hectatomb into Expedition mode, that'd be amazing. But I also kind of see the kind of vibe that they're going for, kind of more of like that Borderlands kind of style where you have to kind of run in between. But I would like to see a little bit more of a pacing upgrade for it, whether that's requires spawning more enemies or maybe shrinking. I don't know, but that's just a little nitpick. I don't think it's not the biggest things to me. It doesn't bother me that much, but I would just like to see maybe a little bit better pacing when it comes to that. Then I kind of want things that I would like to see implemented in the future. I would love to see, once the game fully releases, to kind of give the player a better understanding of what the story is about and why you're doing what you're doing, without having to go to different websites or different YouTube videos. And I actually did find a great YouTube video going over the lore and the storyline of Shatterline, made by Raptac. If I'm butchering that, I apologize, but it's basically, if you look up the lore of Shatterline, check that video out. It's about a 13-minute video. The guy does a great job dissecting the storyline and all the lore and everything about it, which I didn't know, and I thought it was really cool to do, because I honestly couldn't find any of the storyline anywhere through their website, through Discord. I checked. I don't know where he got the information, but it was I appreciate him doing the hard work. And most of all, is just kind of, like I said, just bringing more cutscenes, letting the consumer get a better idea of what the world and the story is about through the cutscenes, through storylines, maybe through tapes. I know they do implement a little bit of lore through what's called the Codex, but yeah, I mean, I would just like to get a better understanding on my own without having to do the research. That's just probably my biggest thing, which they could potentially do, and maybe that's what they're looking into. Another thing that I would like to see is seeing more PvE specific rewards and cosmetics. It seems like a lot of the cosmetics and rewards kind of are the same throughout PvP and PvE, and I would like to have some sort of system where it rewards players that just do PvE or rewards players that just do PvP, and having like special unique things that are only for that. And also, I think it helps the developers in the long run have people that play both parts of their game, which I know some people, that could be a little bit of a more controversial thing, but I just think, look, if you're willing to play PvE, you should get your own like little special things. Some people don't like that, but we'll see what they end up doing in the future. And also something that they have already mentioned, and I mentioned in my Future of Shatterline Dev Q&A video, if you want to check out, it is my most recent upload, and you'll see it in the bubble above to your top right, is adding the addition of difficulties to PvE, which is what they are doing and they are planning on doing. And I'm actually very excited to do it. It sounds like as of right now, they're just doing an extreme, like kind of nightmare difficulty. But I would like to see maybe 3, like you have your standard normal now, maybe something a little bit more difficult, and then like your extreme. And then obviously each one having its own set of unique rewards and maybe even cosmetics. And then the final thing, and it's not even a huge thing that I would like to see in the future, and maybe they won't even do it, is possibly adding another mode to the co-op PvE section of the game. I was always thinking, like, what if they did like a survival-based mode, like something where it's unlimited time, it's just about surviving as long as possible. There's no set of objectives, maybe a little set of a little bit of objectives, but a lot of it's just about surviving as long as possible, looting. You starting out with just your pistol, getting perks, gaining, and just getting stronger and stronger until you absolutely can't no more. Another thought that I had, where it's kind of blending the two of PvE and PvP, and maybe coming up with some sort of mode where you can implement both. That could be pretty interesting. I know not everybody's into all that, but I think it could add another element to the game that could bring in more players. Something, not necessarily even an extraction mode, but just something where you can kind of combine the two. I think it could be really interesting and really fun. And I think the gaming industry is kind of heading in that direction of finding ways to blend those PvE AI elements to player versus player elements. And then my final thing is that just hopefully is just to continue to see new content, which obviously there will. I'm really excited to see what this game is going to look like on full release, with a full set of content that they hope to see. Maybe they do like a whole, like, drop a bunch at once and they're just like play testing. We're getting teased right now, but yeah, just continue to support. And I've predicted, and I even said it in my Future of the Shatterline video, is I predict this game is going to primarily focus on PvE anyways over PvP. But I mean, only time will tell. We will see. But anyways, yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on it. I will say that the PvE mode overall is great, and I would give it an 8 out of 10. I think it's really solid, and I think the only reason it's not a 10 out of 10 yet is because it's in early access, and we just got to wait and see what the future holds. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you guys like the PvE mode? What would you like to see them add? What are some things that you like or dislike? Feel free to let me know. We'll have a little bit of discussion in the comment section down below. And yeah, I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.